All right, I apologize that this looks like a horror movie, but yeah, I had to film the video at the very end of the day, so it's really dark, and I'm using this kind of like really weird light that's meant for closets. Anyway, today I really just wanted to share a story, actually, that I hope will normalize things for you, help you out. This is going to be a story for anyone who is, I don't know, starting out private practice or who's in private practice, new, been in it for a while. This is going to be a story about making a mistake, all right? And not really a small mistake, but kind of a large mistake. Yeah, I mean, if you've been following along, I'm a therapist in private practice. I own a group practice, and so a lot of my stories are about that. But if you're a small business owner, you'll find this helpful or hopefully entertaining as well. But yeah, I was thinking about this because this week a lot of the videos had to do with like making mistakes or normalizing certain feelings that we have as small business owners. And I was reminded this morning of a mistake I actually made. I actually forgot about it. And so, yeah, when I was just starting out, I hadn't even started out. I was just basically fantasizing about private practice, right? Like thinking about it a lot, daydreaming about it a lot. I can remember looking up like business entities, but I didn't know what I was doing. I had done very little research. I was just kind of Googling around, right? And I remember it was like one afternoon, I was Googling around something around business entities, just not exactly, I can't remember exactly what I was Googling, but I remember finding like the idea that you should have an LLC, right? But I didn't even know what that was. I had no idea what that meant. But I just did some quick Googling and I saw that you can do an LLC on LegalZoom in like 10 minutes and it's, you'll be done, right? I was really excited and very uninformed. And so what I ended up doing was, and I don't do this often. I just made a video about how I do a lot of research, but in this moment, I just got caught up in the excitement. And what I did was hopped on LegalZoom and I started the process, and they do make it very easy of starting an LLC in New York. And I get through the whole process, charge the credit card and everything to start this LLC for a therapy practice. And it was exciting because I was able to do it, right, on LegalZoom. However, once I did it and confirmed it, there was a couple things that got sent back to me from LegalZoom saying that, we might not be able to do this. I forget what it was, some sort of warning email or like an email that said they required more documentation. And then I started to freak out, right, because I formed an LLC. I didn't know that, was that like a legal issue? Like, did I do something bad? How do I undo this? I had no idea what happened, I didn't even know if it was the right or wrong thing to do at this point. But I get the email back. I do a little bit more digging. And essentially what I found out was that any sort of licensed professional in the state of New York is unable to establish just an LLC. But you need to establish what's called a PLLC. And this is for New York and some other states as well. Not every state requires this. And basically what that means is that, yeah, it's an LLC, but the P designates that you're a professional, meaning a licensed professional. You require a license to perform your job function, right? And so I figured out that I established an LLC, but I really needed a PLLC. And so now I needed to go back and fix all of this, right? And then the panic sets in, like, oh, shoot, what did I do? Can I get refunded? Will I ever be able to fix this? You start to kind of freak out about it, and you feel like you made like a life-altering mistake. So in a matter of, that was probably hours, I went from sheer excitement to, yeah, I'm going to start a business entity in 10 minutes on LegalZoom, to sheer panic because I had made an error and a mistake. The good news was that I was able to quickly go back into LegalZoom, cancel everything, get a refund, and get that wiped clean. So that worked out really well. The aftermath, though, was essentially having to go back to the drawing board, figure out what a PLLC was. I learned that on LegalZoom in New York, you cannot use that. That service does not work. You have to, kind of go through other avenues, which I ended up doing. But yeah, that was one moment at very early on. It was before starting private practice. Just got overly excited, made a really quick decision. Thankfully, this one didn't cost me anything other than time and panic. But yeah, I share this because for two reasons. One is that this idea that it's okay to make mistakes, right? I learned a lot from that ordeal, and it wasn't a huge, not a huge. It felt huge in the moment, but I learned a lot from that, right? So that was good. That was a good experience. If I could go back, I probably wouldn't change it just because of how much I learned. So again, making mistakes in private practice, even one as seemingly big as forming the incorrect business entity. It's not always the end of the world, right? We can usually fix things, go back and repair. And I know sometimes some mistakes are more costly than others, and we do want to avoid them when we can. And sometimes we can't. We make an honest mistake. Number two is that from that, I also learned to really do my research. Before making any decisions, pulling out a credit card, establishing anything, I do what I shared a couple videos ago, which is a plethora of research. I become, quote unquote, an expert in the topic. And again, I put this in quotes. I'm not really an expert, but I'm just saying that I do a lot, like hours of research to feel like I understand as much as I can about a particular thing. And then I consult an actual expert. So what I ended up doing in that case was doing a whole bunch of research on PLLCs and what it was and what it meant and all that it entailed. I really feel like I learned a lot. And then I consulted an accountant, and then I consulted a lawyer and confirmed that what I had learned was true, and then went ahead and established the PLLC, which was the correct thing to do. So those were the two lessons I learned from that. Making mistakes is okay. And number two, do your research. Think about that as an investment. Your time in that, investing in research, is going to usually pay off in the long run. Anyway, that was what I wanted to share today. I hope you find this helpful, and I hope you have a great weekend. I will see you in the next video.